Hello, my friends. This is Lynda Lippin, and welcome to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Well, hello, everybody. It's Lynda Lippin, and welcome back one more time to the Pilates Goddess podcast. I am feeling a lot better than I was last episode. Got some good medication in me and feeling like myself again. So welcome. And for today's episode, I am coming back to revisiting the Pilates mat, and we are continuing today with neck pull, scissors, bicycle, shoulder bridge, and spine twist. Now, we've just come out of a lot of hyperextension in the mat, right? We've gone through the swan dive, the single leg kick, and the double leg kick. We've now gotten a lot of extension. We've got a lot of work in our back muscles. We've bended in the opposite direction from the way we usually go, which is forward. And now we come to the neck pull. Now, the neck pull for most people is a bear of an exercise. You say neck pull and people get the look on their face. There's a few reasons why the neck pull is so hard. Number one, you've lengthened the length of your top lever, right? By bringing the hands behind the head where your arms cannot assist you by allowing for a little momentum of moving forward, right? So now we've got the hands behind the head and we're trying to lengthen the spine and come up in a lengthened flexion. The second thing is that your feet are apart instead of together. So it's harder to think about the inner thigh connection because the legs are apart. Ideally, on a studio mat, your legs are apart and under a strap, right? So that you can really push out through your legs, getting a little bit of work in the abductors, in the glute medius, in the tensor fasciae lata, the side butt, as a lot of my clients like to call it. And then you have the leverage that you need to really get the best work out of your spine. If you're doing this with just feet on the mat, it can be really, really difficult. And we'll talk about some ways to modify for that. So in the full form of the exercise, you start on your back. Ideally, you're on a studio mat, your feet are under a strap. Your hands are behind your head. You inhale, you roll up that upper back in a very long, lengthened manner, pulling the crown of your head down towards your knees while you stay in a long, lifted forward flexion. You inhale up to sitting tall. You start to hinge back, curling the pelvis under a little bit, but keeping the chest up and the head up and everything lifted. And when you can't maintain that anymore, you curl your pelvis under and roll down. And then you do it again. That is the full form of the neck pull. Now, if you know that you already have a torso that's a little bit longer than your legs, I can guarantee you that bringing your hands up behind your head and trying to roll up can be an exercise in frustration without your feet under something, okay? And if your legs are longer than your torso, that can make this exercise actually a little bit easier coming up, but can make it a little bit harder coming down. If, like me, you've got a really short waist and you're pretty equidistant between your torso and your legs, the neck pull actually isn't that hard, but it's not just because I'm super strong, which I am, but it's also because my levers are the same length top to bottom, so it's just easier for me to bring myself up. This is not an exercise for your flexion intolerant clients. For those clients, I would have you start them seated, the hands behind the head, and do the lift and lean back and coming back up, okay? For other modifications for rolling up, you can always feel free to bring the arms forward to control the roll up, then reconnect the hands behind your head for the lengthened forward flexion. right? And then maybe if you need to, bring them out from behind your head again as you're going back if your legs keep popping up off the ground. Even if you're at home, you can find something, even ankle weights sometimes around the ankles will hold your legs, a little bit heavier, or just placing like a heavy blanket or something around your legs or your feet can do the same thing. If you're in the studio, you should be on the studio mat, use that strap, okay? Where it's now looking at a shape that's a little bit bigger and a little more intense. And this this corkscrew, right? This neck pull is helping prepare the body now for scissors. So we've done this more extreme flexion, but we've also got some length in the upper body, length down through the legs, some work through the outer butt, and then we're coming into scissors. So with scissors, you are supine, right? You lift up your hips. You bring your hands under your pelvis. So your hands are now on either side of your sacroiliac joint. Your elbows are tucked under you so that you're in a very strong and supported position, okay, with the heel of your hand right under that each side of your sacroiliac joint, so under your pelvis. Your knees are into your chest. Then you come up maybe a little bit higher. You straighten your legs up and you start to reach one leg forward and one leg back, focusing on the forward, focusing on the length. So the leg that's going back isn't really pulling back. I don't do this as a hamstring exercise. We're doing this to work on extension for me. So you go into the scissors in that high position, holding up your hips. And then you go into the bicycle in the same way, going forward and bending, then reversing that bicycle. And then out of there, we bring the feet in the full version, okay? We have the hands in the same place. We bring the feet down to the mat. And we are in the shoulder bridge position. And right from there, again, with the hands under the pelvis, you kick one leg up and you go into the single kicks for your high shoulder bridge. And then you come out of that. So we have that kind of, big extension of the swan dive through double leg kick. Then we go into some deep flexion in the neck pull, which then prepares us for the big extension that we're going to have, as well as the work through the elbows and the shoulders in the scissors, bicycle, and shoulder bridge with kicks. Now, let's talk for a second real quick about modifying those things, okay? For scissors and bicycle, you can use a roller or a blanket under the pelvis instead of holding it up with your hands. You can also use the spine corrector or a small barrel under the pelvis and do the scissors and bicycle there. No harm, no foul. It all works, okay? In my Pilates for back pain e-course, where I break down the entire mat, you can see photos of me doing this at home in my kitchen with a blanket under my pelvis, okay, to have that support. For the shoulder bridge, the modification is to bring the hands out from under the pelvis, have the arms down by your sides, come up into your bridge and do the kicks without moving the pelvis. So it just brings you down a little bit lower. And then from there, we sit up just to get some regular seated extension. And again, we've now got a little more space in the hips because we've done all this awesome work, right, in the hip extension and flexion, and then we sit up tall for spine twist. Now in spine twist, as opposed to the saw, your legs are together, your heels are together, your arms are out to the side. And you go to one side and you twist, go a little further and come back into the center. Same thing on the other side. What are we looking for in the spine twist? We're looking for a stable pelvis and a lifted lower back. We are looking for the legs and the feet to not be moving as we rotate the upper body. So if you are doing this exercise and you feel your heels brushing against each other, or you're teaching and you see your clients moving their feet, because, this comes out in stomach massage and other places in the studio. We'll talk about that in a second with all of these exercises. Your pelvis isn't stable because your pelvis is turning, which is why your legs are shifting. So it's keeping that lift and really getting the rotation from the head and the rib cage. I personally like to inhale on rotation and exhale coming back in. That's actually better mechanics for the spine. But once again, you can play with other breathing patterns here for your clients. I love the spine twist. The spine twist can be modified. You can have somebody just sitting on a chair, sitting on a box. If they can't have their legs straight, there's options. But sitting on the Wonder chair, having the feet grounded, sitting on the Cadillac with the feet on the short box, and really just working that lift and that rotation of the upper back. So we talked a little bit about the fact that you could do like your scissors and bicycle on the small barrel or spine corrector. So you can kind of see where those exercises show up in other places in the studio. I'll get back to neck pull in a second. But with the scissors, bicycle, shoulder bridge, you see versions of that everywhere. Think about your bottom lift on the reformer. Think about your tree. Yeah. Think about any of the leg spring work, especially where you're looking at scissors and bicycle. Think about the abs series. Okay. Think about the high frog on the Wonder chair. Think about the front lunges and side lunges on the chairs. Okay. Think about all of the leg press downs on the chairs. Think about your knee stretches. Think about all of these exercises because all of them are then related to these. Your swan, any extension on your stomach is going to get better by doing this extension work where you're on your back with your hips elevated, working on the back strength and the back of leg strength and the stability and the abdominal work to be there. Now, when you look at neck pull, I think the most obvious example of neck pull is actually on the short box. Yeah. An obvious example of the spine twist is actually, you could do twist and reach on the short box, but I think is the stomach massage twist. So I want you to start thinking, as you look at these exercises, where else can we do them? Where else are we doing these same shapes? Because sometimes you may have clients who are actually doing these shapes on other pieces of equipment and don't necessarily realize it. And then you have them do it on the mat and they're like, oh my God, I can't do this. This is so hard. But then if you bring them back to another piece of equipment where they've done the same exercise or the same shape, and then you're like, by the way, this is your spine twist. by the way, this is your neck pull. By the way, this is whatever. And for folks who are having problems getting that deep, for flexion tolerant people who are having problems getting that deep scoop up and over in the neck pull, the round stomach massage will really help them, right? Because think about, again, the shape, straightening the legs, having the upper body curled over. Do you see we're getting into similar shape and similar exercise? And that's where kind of I want your head to be, that any piece of equipment that you're looking at, what exercise on this piece of equipment that actually exists in the Pilates canon will give me a similar experience to this, say, mat exercise that's very, very difficult to teach. It will also help for your practice and for your brain as a Pilates practitioner or a Pilates teacher, especially if you do or have done in your life the apparatus and the mat, to understand the mat a little bit more deeply in its relationship to the apparatus. So I really hope these are useful for you. They're really fun for me, by the way. I'm enjoying this. And this episode will be coming out the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. There actually will be a Thanksgiving episode this week. I will drop that on Thursday. And I hope you guys have a fabulous holiday. Like, really, just enjoy it. I have issues with my family. So does my husband. All of our parents are already gone. And we really take Thanksgiving with each other, with Juniper Peanut. We hang in. Sometimes we get together in the evening with friends for a few drinks or a decaf. And I refuse to get caught up in the holiday craziness and weird and questionable family dynamics. I just have removed myself from that. And for those of you who are going into a holiday situation where you might have some difficulties with other people around you, just take a deep breath, put a smile on, ignore the shit that comes out of other people's mouths, seriously, and just try to spread a little gratitude as best you can. As always, I love you guys dearly. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. And if you love it, please, please, please share the podcast, leave a rating, leave me a 5-star rating, leave a written review. And that will help other people find the podcast. So I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great rest of your day. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Music brought to you by Nerd Salad. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, especially if you liked it. And please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks.